Good day, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Sat Sri Akal, and whatever other greetings there are in the world. I'm Ayesha Siddiqa from London, and with the program Neighbours Talking for Naya Daur. This will essentially be a conversation in South Asia among South Asian neighbors, but definitely between India and Pakistan. And we thought that in 75 years, it's been 75 years for India and 75 years for Pakistan, and we don't have peace. This is something that we have longed for. So it's important to at least, after 75 years of hostility and tension, have this conversation that why can't we have peace and what can be done to have peace. For this first conversation, I have Nirupama Subramanian, National Editor, Strategic Affairs, The Indian Express. She's also a great friend and somebody who has spent 4 years in Pakistan. So, Nirupama, welcome to the show. And let me ask you this question. One thing which completely took my attention, shook me up. This recent story, which I'm sure you've seen yourself, the three Indian Air Force officers who've been sacked for accidental launch of BrahMos missiles. Shouldn't we be talking? I mean, doesn't it alert you to the need for talks?
Firstly, thank you so much, Asha, for having me on this show. I was just recalling when you said that I spent some years in Pakistan, that it's almost 15 years, perhaps, um, slightly less than 15 years since I was there. And time has flown. And it's a great thing that modern technology allows us to keep in touch. And this is one of the great things that has still kept friendships across the border going despite the official freeze on relations. We are able to talk like this. I think it's a great boon. You asked about uh, the sacking of the three IF officers for that missile fiasco, the one that the Indian side said was accidentally fired. And you said, should we be talking? Yes, I think we should be talking, but I also look on the. I also think we are talking because the the reaction from the Pakistani side on the uh, very within hours of the incident, maybe a day or 2 days after the incident, uh, was not one of fire and brimstone. It was muted. It seemed to suggest that they knew it was a mistake, uh, and the Indian side said yes, they promised an inquiry, and they said action would be taken against the airing officials. So I think there is some back channel conversation which has prevented an outright confrontation on this. It could have been much worse. Think about it: a missile fired from Indian soil going into Pakistan, and मेरे ख्याल से I think it you know what did you call it, बचत हो गई in a
No,
sense
no,
because
बहु- ये तो बहुत अच्छा हुआ, but is there going to be more inquiry and other results going to be shared with Pakistan?
look, I don't know if there's going to be another inquiry and if the results are going to be shared with Pakistan. What we know is that there was an inquiry, and the three guys have been court-martialed and they've been dismissed from service. Pakistan has demanded this inquiry, and I think immediately after the dismissal, Pakistan made another statement about how this was insufficient and how there needs to be a sharing of the findings with Pakistan and so on. I don't think those things are going to happen, and I also believe that sometimes both sides make these statements to appear kind of sort of. Appear, in a sense, angry with the other side. Whereas I sometimes feel that on many issues there is a back channel understanding. A lot of people say the back channel is not working. some people say still working, but the way the whole missile crisis was handled made me think that there are some people in touch on both sides.
So who is India talking to? I mean, I remember कि हमेशा से कहा जाता है कि India will not talk to Pakistan's military. I mean, are we having a conversation? Is India now having a conversation with the military or with the government? I mean, our government has been a bit unstable. There was Imran Khan and now there's Shehbaz Sharif, and uh, it doesn't seem that the political government is that involved. So who's talking? Who do you think is talking?
I assume that um, over this back channel was apparently initiated in the last 3 or 4 years, and I assume it is between the Indian security establishment and the Pakistan military on the other side, on your side. Uh, I have no way of confirming this, or I do not have any inside information more than what is already out in the public domain. But it seems to me a conversation between your military and our security establishment. Um, our military is not in the same on the same footing as your military, and as long as uh, as long as the military in Pakistan continues to hold sway, as long as it continues to be the most powerful institution, and and calls the shots, as it were, I think you know the Indian side will have to speak to the uh, Pakistani side, at least on the back channel, even if the front channel, even if the official channel is claimed by uh, this whatever civilian government is in place at that time.
So are
But
you,
I
so in a way, are you suggesting that this hybrid government formula works well for any peace discussions?
So no, I mean I don't know if it is if we can say already that it has worked well. It did take us a little to a little distance. It got us a ceasefire. I mean, there was a ceasefire already on the LOC, and I think what happened was that over the years that ceasefire had frayed, and now since last year, February 24th, I think it was February 24th last year, that ceasefire, both sides recommitted themselves to that ceasefire. So that the back channel brought us to that point where now the guns are silent on the LOC. There isn't much. I mean, there isn't the loss of lives on both sides that we saw. Communities along the LOC are living in peace. In fact, on the Indian side, apparently there's tourism also. Some people have gone to visit those border villages on the LOC in Kashmir. So there is that, but the expectation, I think, that this would lead to more, that it would lead to a wider kind of discussion, wider engagement on all the issues that continue to bother us. I think that has not happened, and it has been a great letdown. But I still think that the peace on the LOC, on the line of control, I think that's a great
So
achievement.
what you're really saying is that we can't think of a roadmap. Can we actually think of a roadmap? I mean, in fact, that it's connected with another question which I had for you, which is that India and Pakistan have these moments of conversation when we can have conversation. Firstly, I mean, are we looking at another moment for conversation? And how is a moment for conversation created in the first place?
India Pakistan relations, आपको भी पता है Aisha, or I also know this, we know this firsthand. They are so unpredictable. They are so mired in so many years of hostility and so many tensions, that एक छोटी सी चीज हो जाती है ना, उसी को हम सेलिब्रेट करते हैं. जैसे फिशरमैन रिटर्न हो गए आपके यहाँ, हमारे यहाँ के फिशरमैन को पकड़ लिया, 10 फिशरमैन को आपकी साइड ने रिलीज कर दिया, हमने 10 आपके प्रिजनर्स को लौटा दिए. इसी को लेके बहुत सारा होप हो जाता है कि अभी कॉन्वर्जेशन शुरू होने वाली है या कुछ. देयर सो मच ऑप्टिमिज्म जनरेटेड बाय स्मॉल एक्ट्स लाइक, मुझे याद है कि एलओसी में एक, देयर वाज अ boy who drowned in the Neelam River. On your side it's called the Neelam River. On uh, and the boy had, I think his body was then returned by our soldiers, the Indian Army, and handed over to the soldiers on your side. And that was such a, oh, I mean, it was page one in the Indian Express. It was banner headline, and everybody, celebrates these small moments of conversation, like as if peace has broken out. So, but there have been times, for instance, in 2007, I think we came closest. It is said, I think, आपके यहाँ से former foreign minister खुर्शीद कसूरी साहब ने लिखा है, उन्होंने किताब लिखी है कि how close we were to coming to an agreement on Kashmir. On this side also, I think Ambassador Satinder Lamba, who was part of the back channel process at that time, he has also he's passed away, but I believe he had almost finished his memoirs, in which there is a lot of information about this back channel. We will await that book, of course. So I think there have been moments. I think that was a very real moment, and everyone says we lost it because on your side, General Musharraf at that time took some huge, made big mistakes, starting with the killing of Bukti, I would say, and then taking on the Chief Justice, and then it was just a downward spiral for him. And Manmohan Singh, who was supposed to come in the summer of, who was expected to make a visit at several points, I think, uh, didn't come, didn't could, could not make it. I think there was a previous moment in 2006, I think, when we were supposed to be very close to some kind of agreement on Siachen, and then that did not happen, uh, because there was objection from our side, from the military, that look, we don't trust the Pakistani military on this one, because we need to map our positions really clearly before we enter into any agreement with them on this. So
I'll just stop you here. I mean, and just wanted to remind you, remember 2006 when you were in Pakistan and you actually thought that peace, we'd arrived at a moment when peace was irreversible. And remember, we used to have this conversation. I mean, at that time, I didn't think that was the case. But can we go back? I mean, you saying that was the best moment
I
then?
think those were really the best years for India Pakistan. Uh, that those years from 2004, I think, or 2003 to 2008 were the best years for the India Pakistan relationship. So much went on. People crossed the border. There were cultural exchanges. There were people to people contacts. There was trade. There was uh, the two sides started the cross LOC buses. There was cross LOC trade also, uh, and the LOC was quiet as well. So I think there was a lot of. I mean, in my memory, I think that was really the best time in India-Pakistan relations. In
How
in
how how
that
would you
relationship.
compare it with how would you then compare it with say 2015, when your Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Lahore, and wasn't that a moment? I mean, that came around because of some conversations that were happening back channel too.
So, yeah, that was another moment. But you see, whenever there is a moment like that, and it's almost as sure as night follows day or day follows night, that whenever there's a big moment coming up, whenever there's a feeling that, the two sides are talking or about to talk, and the visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Lahore, to uh, then Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's house, was a big moment. I mean, I really thought that this is a big breakthrough. But then, within 5 days of that, there was a huge attack at Pathankot uh, air base, and everything went down the tubes again. And then, of course, the earlier time in 2008, there was the Mumbai attack. So again, everything completely stalled. I don't think we ever recovered from 2008 and the Mumbai attacks. What happened thereafter were attempts to get back um, to that moment, to those years when our relations were so good. There were some attempts, but I don't think uh, that those attempts came to fruition. And 2015 was perhaps the last time that India made a really serious attempt to get back on, to restart a meaningful kind of engagement, and that really didn't happen then.
Well, India and Pakistan have difference of opinion. I mean, for India, the important issue is terrorism. For Pakistan, it's Kashmir. But if you've noticed, and I'm sure you have, that it's not just that LOC has been peaceful and silent, but Pakistan has really, done, taken a few steps to control a lot of these militant groups. They're there, but they are fairly controlled. So that's a positive sign. Again, let me draw you to that my earlier question कि हम कोई आगे प्लान बना सकते हैं क्या, कुछ सोच सकते हैं कि अब चलें यहाँ तक तो पहुंचे. We've reached a point where terrorism isn't really happening. So how can we consolidate it? आप लोग हमारे इस मूव को ट्रस्ट करते हैं, करेंगे? Can we have a roadmap for peace?
Dekho, I mean, I don't think in India people are really thinking about making a roadmap for peace with Pakistan. I don't think that's so much occupying the mind space of our leadership right now. And it is basically, I would say that's unfortunate. I think we have to be constantly constantly thinking about it, because you know we are neighbors and we have to kind of find a way to coexist. I think it's really awful that in the 21st century we are two big nations, and with a population of India's size, and you know, with you and both of us nuclear armed, and we just need to talk. But I don't think there's a roadmap as such right now. I think it's
Hmm.
more like take it as it comes. And I think there was an expectation from the Indian side last year the after the ceasefire that Pakistan would start some kind of trade with India, which Pakistan had completely ended after the steps in Kashmir that India took in 2019, in August 2019. So there was a hope that some restricted trade could start through Wagah border, and maybe this could lead to a wider engagement. For reasons uh, that seemed to an observer like me, that the Pakistan government had got cold feet about this, about starting trade when when the Kashmir issue was for on the Pakistan side still unresolved, as it were. Uh, so I think they got cold feet and they went back on that. They made a U-turn, and it was therefore all to see. Uh, so I don't think, and I think India is just waiting for Pakistan to make a move on that, and Pakistan is waiting for India to make a move on Kashmir. But I can say from what I know about this government that there's going to be no going back on Kashmir. I'm not saying that there's only a BJP thing. I think there's also a, a, a it's a non-partisan thing. It's across parties. I think you know that we can't now reverse all the steps that were taken on August 5th, 2019. That what has happened, and now we have to move forward from there.
So
I think
nothing on that will change.
I think what the government has said is that once the elections have taken place, then there will be statehood. Statehood will be given back to Jammu and Kashmir, but Ladakh will still not be a part of uh, that state. Ladakh will still remain a separate entity. So yeah, so this is what it is, and I don't think enough people appreciate in Pakistan that this change is now irreversible. It's not going to go back to what it was on August 5th, 2019. And I don't know if in the back channel this is understood. The way the back channel seems to have continued off and on. My feeling is that there is some understanding in the back channel with whoever is on the Pakistani side and between the Pakistani side and the Indian side, there is some understanding, which is why uh, uh, you don't. I mean, there isn't really that kind of. You don't see the insistence coming very often, or too many or too frequently. That the Kashmir rhetoric itself seems to have come down a bit. You don't hear it that much. Uh, so these are sort of straws in the wind. One doesn't know how much one can join the dots and make some big, think of it as a roadmap.
What
Um,
about, but what about going back to Musharraf's, I mean, something similar to that 4-point formula which Jal Musharraf had suggested? Can we have some conversation where we find a solution? I mean, let's not also forget that in the middle of India and Pakistan, there's also the issue of Kashmiri people who suffer through the politics and lack of cooperation.
yeah, absolutely. And that is, I mean, that's a huge thing uh, in Kashmir right now. That you know, they've been since August 5th, 2019. Uh, they haven't really had all the rights that they are supposed to have. I think uh, वहाँ का मीडिया बिल्कुल ही there's not the old media doesn't exist anymore. Um, there isn't a lot. The government tends to use a lot of strong arm tactics. They use draconian laws there. Uh, uh, One of them is our un, UAPA, which is Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, and that is used a lot. It's quite draconian. Uh, Also, you can be charged for Facebook posts. You can be charged for social media posts. Journalists are frequently stopped from, leaving the country. So there are lots of strong arm tactics, and you can't say. I can't say with confidence that that Kashmiris are leading a fully normal life. Militancy still continues in Kashmir, and from our side, the feeling still is that Pakistan is pushing this militancy, if not pushing people, it is pushing arms through drones, and it is still encouraging that kind of militant sentiment in Kashmir. So there is that. I mean, I think the Kashmiri militants are now almost. I mean, uh, there's a big segment of homegrown militancy in Kashmir right now. Also, on our side, there is what they're referring to as hybrid militancy, which is like, uh, it's not a it's a part-time militant. I mean, somebody gives him a gun, he goes and kills somebody, and that's it. He just melts into the crowd, and he can be a normal uh, person, on the next day. So, and there is there is some kind of it's a sort of the law enforcing authorities in Kashmir haven't been able to determine who these people are. I remember watching a program in which Mr. Dullat, who used to be the RNTW chief, and also he was in the IB in Kashmir many years ago, telling Karan Thapar in a program that there is a Pakistani cell sitting in Srinagar and sort of directing this, or Pakistani run cell sitting in Srinagar and running this. I cannot determine the truth of these things. I'm just telling you what people are saying. Um,
Well,
so
Nirupama, I would kind of stop you here, and I think this is an issue, and this is a problem that we'll continue to have until we actually decide that Pakistan and India are going to have peace. I mean, again, as a reminder that in Pakistan side, we've been talking about Indian intervention in Pakistan. There's a case of Kulbhushan Yadav. So use of non-state actors is a problem that we have. Uh, but one final point, we've come to the end of our conversation. Do you see that, and there are many issues on which we need to talk, nuclear risk reduction, media cooperation. I mean, I remember the days when used to be at least three journalists, Indian journalists in Pakistan and Pakistani journalists in India. Do you see that moment coming again? Or as, for example, the great game expands in South Asia and as Indo Pacific changes the geopolitical map, that we'll see less conversation, formal conversation, and more back channel?
I think, back channel is has been a useful medium in India-Pakistan relations, and until there's some kind of agreement in a good solid agreement on back channel, I don't think it we are going to see anything in the official conversations. That's one thing. But I think, if I may say that the India-China model is something that I've been thinking about over the last few days. India and China had a huge standoff in 2020, as you know, on the LAC, and yet we are two countries that do enormous trade. I mean, our trade now, India China trade now, is much more than it was before the pandemic, before that standoff in 2020 on the LAC in Ladakh. And it's like it's balanced. I mean, the balance is tilted towards the Chinese. So, meaning we import a lot of Chinese goods still. Uh, Although, if in India there is the sentiment is very anti-Chinese. I mean, if if you say, I mean, there's still a sentiment in among people, among ordinary people, that China hasn't done the right thing by us, but we're still doing trade. So I sometimes think that if India and Pakistan could do trade, and some of those things will be, you know I know Pakistanis, you know, don't really think much of this. That first do trade, and maybe other things will sort themselves out. Uh, but I firmly believe that what you can't solve, you can leave to a side for the moment, and then what you can do, let us do that. At least normalize some part of the relationship, so that it kind of widens it gives you space to widen the engagement. It builds some constituencies for peace. It builds some constituencies for pushing normalization. So yeah, so this is what I think. And also, uh, the trade is something Pakistan wants to be part of this. This whole trade route towards Central Asia, and I don't think it can be that without actually trading with India. Trading, there has to be trade with India, so for Pakistan to
S-
be able to make use
s-
of its corridor towards Central Asia, to
Yeah,
Afghanistan, and so
certainly,
on.
certainly, Nirupama, that's true. I really wish that there is more trade between our countries, more communication, that there is, you can come back and visit us in Pakistan, and we can, more people can go and visit India. Thank you so much for joining me today on Neighbors Talking. Hope to see you again.
Thank you, Aisha, and I wish a day comes when we'll be able to cross the Wagah border freely and uh, meet each other as frequently as we want, and uh, and everything is normal between the two countries. This is my wish
Thank,
for the 75th year of our respective independence days.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, viewers and listeners, you heard Nirupama Subramanian speak about possibility of India-Pakistan peace. We are probably going to have more of these conversations, but this will be a program to explore more of the neighborhood, South Asian neighborhood, and possibility of communication. Thank you for tonight.